Why don't we kick it off? I know most of the people in the room. I'm Jim Rooney, President and CEO of the Greater Boston Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to the second installment of the Chamber's AI event series, which we launched at the end of last year to offer a platform for both people, employees, businesses to share experiences and strategies and learn about the challenges and opportunities associated with adopting AI. We know that AI is affecting the way business is conducted in all sectors. We get a lot of that from our members, and we know that it's affecting all of our lives in some fashion. So as we navigate the ongoing AI revolution, the Chamber remains committed to leading the business community in the important conversations that explore the future of tech across industries and how this affects our workforce. We're going to focus on this in this continuing series throughout 2025, but today there's a couple of questions we want to ask. How will AI impact learning, and how our students and our institutions of higher education adapt? Can Massachusetts institutions lead the way forward using AI to bolster the future of education? So there's a lot of questions, not only in this industry, but I think in every industry you can think of in terms of, how will AI affect financial services? How will it affect healthcare? So those are the kinds of questions we want to explore in this series. I get asked these questions all the time, but I'm hardly qualified to answer them. What we do is invite guests like we have today who can help us answer these kinds of questions. During this event, we'll explore how higher education is already harnessing the power of AI to ensure that all students are successful in their careers and throughout life. Our featured speaker, Northeastern University President President Aoun, leads one of the region's most successful higher education institutions. During his time as president, Northeastern created a global university system spanning 13 campuses across North America and the United Kingdom. I've had the honor of visiting two of them, one in Seattle and recently last year in Toronto. Northeastern's increased research funding and hired more than 800 tenured and tenure-track faculty under President Aoun's leadership. President Aoun has also led the global expansion of Northeastern's co-op program, bringing experiential learning opportunities to more than 140 countries, which is quite amazing. President Aoun is the author of numerous articles and books, including Robot Proof, Higher Education in the Age of Artificial Intelligence, which is something we're going to explore today. The book explores the many ways that colleges and universities can and must meet the challenges and opportunities associated with AI. Now, he's an expert at a lot of things, but before his role at Northeastern, President Aoun was the inaugural holder of the Anna Bing Dean's Chair at the University of Southern California, and he traded in that beautiful weather for days like today here in Boston. President Aoun holds several advanced degrees, including a PhD from MIT. He's been widely recognized for his leadership and scholarship in academic circles. He's a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, a fellow of the American Association of Advancement of Science, and he's a past chair of the American Council on Education. So now, why don't we just begin the discussion of higher education and the future of our workforce. Please welcome Northeastern President Joseph Aoun. Okay, we had a question of the wisdom of leaving good weather coming to Boston, but we're glad you did.
Yeah, and one of my friends said, fires, earthquakes, cold weather, what do you prefer?
There's choices to be made.
Absolutely.
There's choices to be made. So, President Aoun, if my math is correct, you've been serving as president at Northeastern University for just over 20 years, is that right?
Close to, yes.
Yeah. During that time, I mentioned in the introduction, you've created a global university system talk about, before we get into the subject of AI and technology, talk about the changes that have occurred at Northeastern University during your tenure, but I'll start by saying we are a Northeastern family, as you know.
Absolutely.
My dad was a Northeastern graduate when it was more of a commuter school. So talk about the last 20 years.
And your son.
Yes, my son and my daughter.
Yeah. So essentially, as you know, in higher education, there are two approaches to learning. One is essentially focusing on the classroom instruction. And the other is the experiential. We're focused on co-op, which brings together and integrates the classroom instruction with the world instruction. And that's the co-op model. And so essentially what we did is first we globalized co-op, and as you said, we have over 4,000 employers in 140 countries. So that resonated well with our parents, with our students, and because it allows them to have different experiences in different contexts. So that's what we did first. Then we created a global network of campuses, and we did it for three different reasons. One, we have 4 campuses now focusing on undergraduate education, where if you're a student at Northeastern, you can have an experience and study in Boston or in London, or in now the Bay Area, in Oakland, because we have a college that merged with us, and next year is in New York, because we also have a college that merged with us. The whole idea is that the students can have different curricula, different emphasis, and different experiences and different co-ops in those cities. And so they can roam and move around. We also have a set of campuses, and you visited 2 of them, throughout the United States, in Canada, and obviously in London. And the purpose is of these campuses is also the second leg, is to focus on adults like us. Because with AI, with the acceleration of discoveries, we're all becoming obsolete. So we need to reskill ourselves and upskill ourselves. So, and therefore, those campuses will allow the adults, the professionals, to have access to these reskilling and upskilling and reinvention curricula, and that's what we have done. Why did we do it? Why did we go there? For a simple reason. We all are busy. They don't have time to come to you. The university has to go to them, and that's what we did. So undergraduate education in this global network, professional education, and the third is obviously research in all these campuses.
What's interesting hearing you talk, and I hear this a lot from leaders in the business community, about some measure of frustration with the lack of flexibility and agility within higher education, this adapting to what the current context in the world is asking you to do in terms of education. In Northeastern, it explains why Northeastern is such a desirable institution, because it's meeting that moment. I'd like to expand on this a little bit beyond Northeastern and talk about the state and the future of higher education, to kind of set the context for our discussion about how AI is going to impact that. Can you comment about some of the trends that you're seeing in higher education, particularly given some changing demographics that we're seeing?
Yes, I think that higher education in general, as a sector, is challenged. We are seeing, first of all, as you mentioned, it's an aging population. Everybody is aging except us, which means that we have less students going to college. Now, if you look at all the projections, by 2040, we will have 13% less students going to college. And in addition, of the students who are finishing high school, we have a smaller number choosing to go to college. In 2018, 69% of the students finishing high school were college bound. Now it's only 62%. So this is impacting colleges and universities. And over the last 6 years, only 36% of colleges filled their seats. In addition, we are seeing on a weekly basis a college folding, closing, one per week, nationwide. And the final point here is that if you look at the sector as a whole, various outfits have projected that 40% of colleges and universities are at risk. So this is impacting us directly here in the Commonwealth, because essentially we have the largest concentration, especially in the greater Boston area, of colleges and universities.
The other trend that I'm observing, particularly among the business community, is this looking at the job qualifications that they're asking for, and maybe considering, do I need to hire someone with a college education, which trickles down into the decisions people make about whether to go to college or not. Are you seeing that as a trend as well? And how does the traditional four-year college adjust to that?
We are seeing something slightly different in the sense that the employers are really want people who are ready to tackle the unknown, to be, if you want, at the beginning job ready, but to go beyond it. And so there is a premium on college education that we still see, because essentially, for instance, let me give you an example. At some point, there were some outfits for profits that launched boot camps for coding some years ago. They were extremely successful at the beginning, and then at some point, the employer said, enough. Why? Because we can hire them, but we cannot promote them. And when we look at the talent, we're looking at it as an investment, and therefore, if I'm investing in a person, I would like this person to be able to move forward, and I can't with that. So there is a demand for this, but there is a demand for talent that it will be flexible, that is ready to upskill itself, to redefine itself.
So, we talked about your book. You actually released this book, Robot Proof, in 2017. At that time, you were looking into the future, at least as most people thought it was the future, but you saw it as something that was much more imminent, I think. And I remember that when you wrote that book, it was amidst uncertainty and fear about technology and artificial intelligence. So here we are, 7, 8 years later, and you decided that it's time for an update. Why did you write the book, and why did you decide to update it?
Let me start by mentioning that, in fact, AI is not a newcomer.
Yeah.
AI has been with us over 50 years. So, in 2017, the university built a strategic plan, Northeastern University built a strategic plan focusing on AI. And at that point, my colleagues scanned all the strategic plans of colleges and universities, and none mentioned AI. But essentially, when you start working with your faculty colleagues and you see the research that is being done, you see immediately that what they are doing is game-changing. So we grabbed it very early on, we understood the implications, and we focused our plan on, strategic plan on AI, and that led to robot-proof higher education in the age of AI. And essentially, we said, the question we asked ourselves, if AI is going to be a game changer, how are we going to integrate AI in our thinking and our mission? So fast forward today, what happened today is that, when you mention AI, everybody is working on AI, everybody is worrying also about AI. And so that's the question, that's what led me to write this book.
So, we mentioned the connection between the needs of the business community and employees that are ready to bring their skills and talents into the workforce, and whatever that business might be, whether it's life sciences or financial services or what have you. Those jobs are all going to change.
Absolutely.
So therefore, that ingredient, the labor force, has to be a little bit different. What does that mean for higher education?
Actually, it means two things. And, I mentioned that higher education is being challenged, but there is a great opportunity. And the opportunity is that, and higher education so far has not mined this opportunity fully. If we are going to need to reskill ourselves and upskill ourselves or even reinvent ourselves, somebody has to help us do it. And that's where universities have to step in. If you look at the growth is not going to be about the 18 to 22 who are college bound. The demand and the growth is in terms of lifelong learning. And that's why we created this network of campuses. So universities have the opportunity and indeed the obligation to provide that. But in order to provide it, we cannot do it in the usual traditional way. Let's build them and they will come. So we have to go to where the learners are. We have to work with them based on their needs. And we have to provide programs and curricula that are on demand, that are, small badges, small certificates, that will allow them to move, to test it, to move forward, to see whether they can add to it. So for us, we have to rethink the way we are approaching dispensing learning or helping the students. And that's an enormous opportunity that we have for all colleges and universities. So on one side, you have a shrinking population, that the 18 to 22 that are college bound. On the other side, you have an enormous demand that is unmet.
So you integrated it into the strategy of how you're going to provide education for students. So if I'm a student that walked into Northeastern University, how would that experience differ today than, say, 10 and 20 years ago when you got there because of this strategy?
Well, first of all, when you look at the curriculum, as an undergraduate students, we are promoting something called humanics. Essentially, what is humanics? We said the mission of universities is to prepare students to become robot-proof, hence the title Robot-Proof, Higher Education in the Age of AI. And we say that every student coming out of Northeastern should master 3 literacies. Understand machines and how they work, that's a tech literacy. Understand the product of these machines, that's the data literacy. And also understand what machines cannot do that we are very good at. So what are these attributes? The ability to be an entrepreneur, creative, the ability to be contextual. Machines, AI doesn't understand context. AI has limitations. It's a very powerful tool, but doesn't understand context and doesn't understand how to move from a context to another. So humanics, if you are coming to Northeastern, we're encouraging you and we're telling you this is your ticket. And understand tech and understand what machines cannot do. The second thing is that we are telling you, you have to put it in an experiential setting. Why? Because what's the experience? Is moving from a context to another. That's what machines cannot do. And that's why we globalized the experience. So the whole idea is that we are not competing with machines. We are trying to understand what is characteristics of humans that machines cannot duplicate for the foreseeable future, and telling you that's your sweet spot. Understand machines and go beyond. And the final point that I mentioned is obviously it will be, once you're part of Northeastern, you're part of a club for life, because wherever you go, we are going to meet your needs in terms of lifelong learning.
Yeah, I think the phrase you used is that the student skills need to be able to complement and enhance AI rather than compete with AI.
Yeah, also we have we are the center. AI is not the center. Okay, so if we look at it, people are afraid and worried about AI and the implications of AI. And therefore, the question is, where is AI going to impact human beings? How is it going to enhance what we do? And how is it going to impact in a negative way what we do? And how we can position ourselves as a society and higher education to focus on the positive.
So what you're describing in and of itself is something, a revolution in the approach to higher education. How prevalent is that thinking in the higher education community? If I was sitting here with other college presidents, would I be having the same conversation?
If all universities think alike, we would have to think differently.
Fair point.
Yeah, so it's essentially, look, we're trying to look at the gaps, where the needs are, where the societal needs are. And this is something that it's the sweet spot of Northeastern. It has been in its DNA. And this is what we're promoting, the idea that you can live in a campus and for 4 years and be ready for life. This is something that we are going beyond.
I want to talk about this model's ability to adapt and be resilient, because I hear that from people that are in AI that the next 10 years is going to be the fastest pace of change and technology revolution that mankind has experienced through these applications of AI that people are thinking about, and as I said, different industries, different sectors all over the world. So that change takes place in the context. How does an academic institution stay current and be able to meet that pace of change?
Well, in some ways, paradoxically, AI, the research in AI is happening in universities and happening in industry. Now, what's interesting is that universities have been slow in integrating AI in their curricula as a whole, in their practices, in their organization, etc. So, and in fact, what's interesting is that the first reaction that universities had is to want to ban AI, because they say the students are cheating by using AI. You cannot do that. Okay, AI is a tool that everybody is going to use. So instead of asking, how can we change our way of assessing, for instance, students, and how can we integrate AI? The movement was to ban AI. It doesn't work. And now people are realizing that, they will have to integrate AI. So it's a change in terms of, it's unsettling for higher education, even though higher education is producing that. But it's also unsettling for businesses, because every business now is trying to integrate AI. And for instance, that's why we established a Center for Experiential AI, precisely to work with businesses in order to integrate AI in their systems. And that's now, going back to the second point you raised about now, we're going to see AI changing everything. That's true. It's going to change everything, but AI is not the only discoveries and research that we are going to see advances in quantum computing. We are going to see advances in life sciences. And what's interesting is that the integration of the three are going to be game-changing. And that's what's exciting. And that's why I believe that we can be well-positioned in the Commonwealth about that.
When I was a much younger man, the thought was 4-year education, and you have all the fundamental ingredients you need to be successful, in some cases, maybe advanced degrees that help you move along in certain places. Not just in terms of AI, but certainly more broadly, you've emphasized lifelong learning.
Yeah.
And now it becomes more important.
Absolutely. And this is what's interesting, because everybody needs it. And if you look at what's happening globally, for instance, if you look at Singapore, Singapore is giving every citizen a lifelong learning account that they can use to reskill themselves, upskill themselves, or reinvent themselves. The UK is doing something different. It's asking mid-size and large companies to put a percentage of their payroll, half a point of in their payroll, to help the employees reskill themselves and upskill themselves. So you see now that, in fact, in terms of AI, many people are going to need to integrate that in what they have done. We are not AI natives. The young students now, the new generation, they are AI natives. And so essentially you need a triangle involving businesses, higher education, and government in order precisely to help us continue to move forward and help people who are going to lose to reintegrate this new world.
Your answer prompted two questions in my
Yeah,
head, and I can't help myself. You mentioned young people that are applying to college today being technology savvy, AI natives, and so forth. How do you that student that arrives, and I think it's still true that many students arrive not knowing what they want to do. How does that change? I mean, is there an approach to sort of nurturing that student who's arriving?
We actually love the fact that the students don't know what to do. On average, students change their majors nationwide 3 times. Okay, why? Because they are discovering new fields, they are discovering new passions, and they are discovering where they fit with respect to them. And this is what we like.
Yeah.
The whole idea, at the beginning of the year when we have all the incoming students, I ask how many know what they want to do, and they raise their hands. How many don't know? I say, within a year and 2 years, this picture is going to change. Because you're going to change, and that's good. We want to nurture that. Look at what you have done, what you studied when you were a student, and look at where you are today. Your interests have changed now. And so the advantage is that in the American system of higher education, we allow this change. In other systems worldwide, this doesn't exist. In addition, co-op and experiential education allows you to start looking at what you're good at, what others are good at, where your passion is, and what you like to do. So we want students not to know, because they're exploring the world and exploring how they can lead in this world.
Yeah. I can validate that. I know that my daughter's first co-op helped her decide what she doesn't want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. and that's why the students say there's not a co-op that is not successful.
Yeah.
This doesn't exist.
You also intrigued me mentioning Singapore, and when people ask me about you, I say, well, he lives in Boston, but he's a global citizen. You have your pulse on what's going on around the world in this space. Tell us what is going on around the world as it relates to the approach to AI and leadership in this space.
First of all, let me mention that Boston is a global city.
Yes.
I started in Boston, that's my first home, and Boston has always been global. But that's the strength of Boston. The second thing, in terms of AI, you have essentially 3 spheres. We are competing with China in terms of AI. It's a race. And the approaches are different. We are focusing on the private sector, we are focusing on universities to move forward. There, it is clear that the government is playing a bigger role. And at the same time, the third sphere will be the Europeans. The Europeans have not been able yet to build large language models to position themselves as players in this field. However, they are approaching it in terms of regulations. And their approach to regulations is different from our approach to regulations in the sense that they are saying, your data, because, generative AI is covering the data. Your data belongs to you and belongs to me. and doesn't, whereas here we take the approach that this data actually can be called. So the implications are substantial because it will limit the way we can build generative models in AI. So that's now the discussion happening between Europe and us. Clearly China is not limited by this aspect, about data and who owns the data. So you have the three approaches, and at this point, we also have decided to restrict the chips, advanced chips that can be exported to China. This is, which means that if you talk to, for instance, our specialists in AI nationwide, you talk to Silicon Valley, you talk to the military, you talk to national security advisors, they tell you that we are 1 to 2 years ahead only. And so this race is real, and this is where universities have an enormous role to play, because China is educating way more engineers than us. And you need engineers. So therefore we are in a situation where, how did we get away with that? How did we remain ahead? We have the only university system in the world that is open, that will recruit talent no matter where they are. Now that allowed us to attract the best brains. Is it going to remain the same? We don't know. But that's clearly an aspect that has helped us tremendously, starting from Second World War till today.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the reasons why you wrote the book, included fears of change, fears of technology, and I remember reading a book on the history of the Boston Fire Department, and the Boston Fire Department workers went on strike when we changed from horse-drawn fire trucks to the steam engine because of their fear of losing the jobs and technology and what that would mean. History is full of examples of fears of change, fears of technology. However, there will be a workforce impact. There are some perhaps legitimate privacy concerns and social economic concerns. So talk a little bit about those, and again, bringing it back to preparing the students for the world of AI and advanced technology. How do you integrate that into the equation?
So the first aspect about the fact that we all need to reskill ourselves and reinvent ourselves. This is something that, during their experience as students, they have to explore constantly. They have to explore in the university, through their experiential education and co-ops, and they have to integrate different fields. So what we have done is created something called combined majors that will bring together a field and AI, for instance, in order to look at the implications of this of AI for this field. And we have over now 280 of these combined majors. That's an example. The idea is that do not restrict yourself to your discipline, but try to understand the implication of what's happening, whether the implications are on your discipline, but also on human beings. So if you're studying, let's say, AI per se, let's focus on that. We want them also, through this combined majors, to understand, the implications for privacy, the ethical AI. You're going to hear a lot, and you're hearing a lot about ethical AIs. And you are going to look at also the implications for the workforce. Some people are going to be able to move forward. Some people are going to be impacted. How can they reintegrate society? So we want them to reflect on all these because essentially they are going to assume leadership positions, and that's what they are going to face. Businesses are facing the same situation. I was talking to Tim today, and he said, was telling me, it's clear that, in my firm, Cambridge 7, we need to integrate AI. now you need to integrate AI. What will be the implications of this integration? And the implications not only in terms of cost, but in terms of the human factor. All these have to be, to be integrated in the disciplines, in the way you approach it. And also, in many ways, businesses have been trying to build an ethical AI. And we all heard about Google, and they set up a committee to work with them on ethical AI. It didn't work. That's an opportunity for universities, because we are very, very well positioned to convene the various players, the businesses, researchers, government, to think precisely about not only ethical AI, but the implications for society that are enormous. We expect, that 40% of the jobs in the next 10 years will be completely redefined. How am I going to position myself with respect to that if I'm part of these jobs?
You alluded to the fact that governments see this phenomenon and sometimes decide to step in. There's dozens of state and, I don't know, federal perhaps, regulations, laws impacting AI and technology. I meet with my colleagues all over the country on a regular basis. I learned recently that there's over 500 pending pieces of legislation at the local, state, federal level that would regulate AI. Talk about that phenomenon. Talk about the role of government in this revolution and, the right approach or the Aoun approach to sort of how do you do this?
I mean, look, let's face it, government, by definition, is not fully versed in AI. And by definition. So what does government do? They are not versed in quantum physics. So that's not something that's only specific to AI. So what governments usually do, they rely on the experts, and they rely on businesses. This is why I think that if we can bring together businesses, government, and the universities to think about how to integrate AI in society, how to minimize the damage, and how to maximize the benefit, that's a good thing. As a matter of fact, here in the Commonwealth, the governor has created an initiative, an AI initiative. She has brought all the players together, but she went a step further. Now we are going to invest in an infrastructure for AI that will bring together universities and businesses and government. We did that with high-performance computing, and she is bringing the three players together. That's the way to do it. We have to do it not only in order to understand the implications, but also to position ourselves, because we're competing. We're competing with New York, we're competing with Silicon Valley, we're competing with various places. New York did it, and we are doing it. But that's the way. The way is not for government to work by itself. Universities cannot work by themselves, and businesses, they cannot work by themselves, and that's why you're presented.
And I know that you and your colleagues at Northeastern have been involved in the governor's strategy development process, and it is encouraging that government is willing to embrace thought as it relates to sort of something that, how can they know what the future is with respect to that, and how regulation might inhibit our ability to be what the governor wants, which is a leading state applications of artificial intelligence. So thanks for jumping in on that.
No, we're very excited about that. Yeah. And also, what's exciting is that universities work together to push forward with this. You have 5 universities. You have BU, BC, UMass System, Harvard, MIT, and in addition to Northeastern.
Yeah. You know, as you think about AI and as I learn more about it, I understand the systems become smarter the more they learn.
Yeah.
Right? The more times that something happens. I think the more that we do with it, the more we learn about it too.
Absolutely.
So you see, for example, applications of AI in the employment process and hiring and screening resumes and people and so forth. Talk a little bit about those applications you're seeing and, you know, maybe what today are elementary applications that we learn from and then they grow, they perhaps will grow, you know, later into something different. And you look at the downside of just screening applications through an AI process versus with some humanity.
Yeah. So let me mention something that I have at AI. AI is a tool that works with brute force. You know, they compute and they try to finish the sentence, adding the next word and the next word and the next word. AI is very powerful but has enormous limitations. It doesn't understand common sense, it doesn't understand logic, and it doesn't understand context. Okay, so this is where we as human beings are ahead. If we start relinquishing, you know, our assets to AI, that is going to create biases. Already we are seeing that, for instance, if you leave it to AI to screen the candidates, there are enormous biases. Also, AI is not perfect. It hallucinates the language models. So essentially, you have to take it as a tool that is supporting what we can do, rather than a substitute. In some cases, it will be a substitution. You know, we cannot compete with AI on computation. We cannot compete with AI on computation. But when I look at you in the eye and saying, Jim, you know, and look at his body language, I say, Jim is resonating with that. I'm saying, oh no, that's something more difficult. You know, teamwork is something more difficult. You know, the fact that we can be culturally agile and move our experience from a domain to another, they can't do it. So the whole idea, take it as a tool, but do not use it to replace what we humans do well. And it's going to be trial and error. It's going to be trial and error. Why? Because an employer will say, let me use this tool and I don't need to have HR. And at some point I wake up and say, look, somebody here is not happy because they feel that there's a bias. Somebody is not happy because we are missing somebody who is on paper not great but can be extremely creative and fit very well in our system. So the pendulum will swing.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask another question or two, but I'm hoping you'll all help me in a minute and have your own questions. In the book, President Aoun, you talk about relating AI to other grand challenges. I think that's the phrase you use. Climate change, economic inequality, and you talk about being able to link those challenges together and trying to play a role in that. It's not just, you know, human resources and financial models. Some of the grand challenges. Talk about how AI can help us with some of
Well, we already saw examples. The Nobel Prize for Medicine, who won that? You know, people who worked on AI, you know, and they were part of Google, they were based in the UK. AI is going to help us in all our fields, you know, in order to remain competitive as an economy, for security. Now, the big debate, for instance, happening in security is whether, you know, the planes, that the fighting planes that we are going to build for 2015 will have to include a human being or not. It's going to let us question everything. Personalized medicine, between the revolution that's happening in the life sciences, CRISPR and others, and the integration of AI, that is going to benefit us. all the modeling about the climate, same thing, is, and the interventions. But, AI will be part of that. So this is why I said at the beginning, we are seeing that it's integration of all these disciplines that are helping us face the grand challenges. And what are the grand challenges that society face? Clearly, we want to live in an environment that is healthy and safe. We want to remain competitive in terms of the economy and be a leading economy, the leading economy. And we want to be in a society where people are, where the inequality, as you mentioned, is not increasing. And AI has the potential of increasing that because people will be left out of this, or we have the opportunity to integrate it. So AI is a tool, and a tool doesn't decide for you. It's the strategy, the human strategy and societal strategy that we have to agree on that will move us forward. And that's an opportunity for universities too, because universities have to rebuild the social compact with society. We have been able, we have enormous privileges as higher education. When you give your check to and your contribution to a college or university, it's tax-free. Why is it tax-free? Because society deemed that higher education is a force for good. It educates our citizens, our children, and at the same time, it allows us to continue to move forward in terms of society as a whole, with respect to the economy, with respect to health, with respect to the environment. If we are not putting that at the forefront, then we're questioning the value of higher education. So this is why I think that it's any new paradigm that is being created is a humbling experience also for universities.
So why don't we turn to the audience, and for our virtual audience, raise your hand and we'll try to work you in as well. So please just identify yourself and then ask your question. You need a microphone.
Hi, I'm Jim Dupont from Dynamic Partnerships. My question is, there are about 40 million Americans that have some college degree but haven't finished their degree, and they're working. Most of those people are working people.
Yeah.
What changes do you think that the business community needs to make in order to facilitate the education of those 40 million full-time workers, to help them to jump into the education, the lifelong learning that you're describing?
Let me start by, it's a great question, and let me allow me to share the example of what the UK is doing. The UK has something called the apprenticeship program that allows people who are in businesses, who are in companies, and don't have a degree to have the opportunity to get the degree. So how are they doing it? They are doing it based on what I mentioned before. You have a percentage point of your payroll will be dedicated to helping those who don't have an education, complete their education, and helping those who have an education to reskill or upskill or reinvent themselves. So businesses, in fact, have, if they have the opportunity to do it. And, which means also for universities will start, up till now, we thought about ourselves as working with the B to C, namely with individuals. Now it is, the opportunity is to start working with the B to B, namely, and that's what we're doing. We work with State Street, we work with PwC, we work with Mayo Clinic, we work with the tech industry, because they have needs that they tell you what the needs are. So it allows you to build programs with them that will be impactful. And once again, this it is a departure for higher education. So higher education has been isolating itself. It's no longer the case that this is viable. You need to understand what the needs are and then meet them. So that's why another dimension of the change is in addition to integrating the B2C, business to consumer, integrate also the B2B.
Hi, I'm Mary Lucas from MK3 Creative Services. My question is Northeastern developing or contributing to its own AI database? Or is it doing that or in partnership with other universities?
We are, if you're saying, are we building our own databases? And the answer is yes. We are building our own databases. In terms of, for instance, when the students are learning, we give them tools and we want to understand whether, those tools are effective, how they're reacting to that, etc. In terms of research, we're doing the same. In addition, when you look at working with other universities, research is no longer confined to a university. You have consortia. And that's where we cull the data together and we look at what we're doing and its impact. So yes, within our own university, we build our own databases, and some databases are shared. And shared not only with universities, but shared with some businesses and that are partners with us, or even government.
Virtual questions
Oh,
as
sure.
well.
Why don't we work that in?
Given the importance of context, essential people skills, does this mean colleges and universities, as well as employers, should embrace liberal arts majors in the AI world?
As I mentioned, our approach is based on humanics. And humanics has three literacies. The tech literacy, understanding machines and how they work. I'm looking at you, and you represent the virtual world. And so the first is tech literacy, data literacy, understanding the product of these machines. And the third is human literacy. And the human literacies is what we can do that machines cannot replicate. Now, if you think about it, that's the liberal arts. But that's the liberal arts that has also to think about the world, not to move away from the world. And that's traditionally how, historically, the liberal arts were created. Because the liberal arts were, it's a reflection on the world, it's a reflection on people, it's a reflection on society. And that's the beauty of the integration, that's humanics.
Great. Thank you. My name is Christina Mayer and I work in finance for the Commonwealth. Thank you for being with us today. So my question is in the cost of higher education. With the price tag of tuition being how high it is, do you see AI shifting that relationship? And if so, how do you monetize AI as a university?
So first, in the beauty of the American system is that it's diverse from this perspective. You have private colleges, you have public colleges and universities, and you have also small, big, etc., with different price points. So so the first point is AI going to impact, the way I'm interpreting the question is going to impact the way universities, the cost for a university. And the answer is it's going to go into three phases. A phase where you have to invest a lot, and that's going to be costly in order to integrate AI. A phase where essentially you experiment. Once you integrate that, you experiment, some will fail, some will not, and then you reach a steady state. The steady state is going to allow you to reduce cost, and at all levels, okay? Then is it going to be passed on to the consumer? The answer is hopefully yes. Okay, the other thing that's happening, which is interesting, is that you know, lifelong learning is a very different, has a very different approach. Because with lifelong learning professionals needing to reskill themselves and reinvent themselves, the price point is changing dramatically and is lower, is being lowered. So yes, you are going to see the impact not only of AI, but because also of what the society, what the individuals can pay. You are going to see a change in the price structure. Yeah.
We have a couple over here.
Hi, my name is Pierce Haley with Sterling Haley. I'm wondering, for someone who didn't grow up even with computers, how do you teach someone, if you're thinking about continuing education, how to use just basic AI to make your day-to-day job easier, maybe a repetitive task? How do you teach someone who doesn't have that tech literacy how to use basic AI?
You don't need the tech literacy is something that is very easy to acquire. Okay? Have you tried AI? Have you tried one of the LLM models?
Plenty. I'm thinking about like teaching my grandmother how to use a computer, though. I mean,
Okay, so let me ask you something. Does your grandmother know how to use the phone?
well, yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Does your
definitely.
grandmother know how to use iPad?
It took a while.
It took a while. Okay, so now it's a question of time. The question is that are people able to learn? That's the first question. And there are differences between people. Differences having to do with their approach to learning, differences having to do with at what stage of their careers and their life they are learning. But it's not uniform. If you believe in the personalization of learning, you will learn differently from me. You'll be much faster. But the fact is, unless we have, problems, we can learn. It's going to be more difficult for others. And the time will, that it will take for them to learn something is fine. But also, there is something else. There are various studies, I'm not telling you anything here that hasn't been done. If your grandmother is interested in, for instance, in her grandchildren, she'll find a way to learn how to access them. So motivation is key. Motivation is key.
One more. Right here.
Hi there, thank you for being with us today, President Aoun. My name is Justin, I work for World Boston. We're an international affairs nonprofit. We benefit greatly from the co-op program, so thank you for sending so many wonderful students and staff members our ways over the last few years. AI is definitely a topic we are working with a lot more now in our professional exchanges of visitors coming from all across the world to Boston. And we have a group that might be coming up in June who want to learn specifically about AI integration in linguistics curriculum. And I know you have a background in linguistics as well. So I wanted to know at Northeastern kind of the integration right now between AI and linguistics.
Look, AI is based on language. What are we calling? We're calling the language. Okay, so essentially, many of my students over the years have built those AI models. So to answer your question, linguistics has been the pillar that allowed AI, the LLM models to exist. So the integration is there. Now, there are different approaches among linguists of how to do the integration. Is it based on statistics? Is it based on models, etc.? But that's different. But every LLM model integrates linguistics. Whether because if you look at the LLM models, it's essentially they work word by word. They find a word and they move to another word in order to find an appropriate word. That has assumes an understanding of syntax, which is the structure of the sentence, some understanding of semantics, which is an understanding of meaning, etc. So that's it has been fully integrated from day one. That's why linguists in these fields are in demand. Absolutely.
Well, President Aoun, I'm sure that we could go on much longer. Thank you so much, not just for today's conversation. You mentioned earlier the competition in Boston as a global city, and one of the reasons why we have that status and one of the reasons why we should feel confident in our ability to compete in this new world is because we have leaders like you teaching our children and developing strategies for how we will be successful and how they will be successful. So thank you for all of that work and your contributions to Northeastern, to Boston, and I know, as I said, you're a global citizen to the world. The book is robot proof. You heard some of the insights that are in that book here today. I would encourage you to take a look at it and further develop your understanding of AI and your journey of lifelong learning. Thank you all for being here, and have a great rest of the week.
Thank you. Thank you.